Let me begin today by asking you, when was the last time something took your breath away? When was the last time something took your breath away? Was it perhaps standing on the beach, watching one of the daily occurrences of beautiful sunsets? Was it maybe on a precipice, a high building or a place? Maybe at some point you were at the Hancock Tower in Boston or the Sears Tower in Chicago, and you stood and you kind of felt angelic standing up there and just looking over the great vista that was below. Or maybe you had your vision, not your vision, your breath taken away in a more contrived fashion. You know, maybe you rode a roller coaster or saw a three-dimensional movie or something that made you say, wow. Or maybe, because it doesn't have to be something that spectacular, maybe it was simply the presence of a blue jay in your backyard, or the opening of a flower in the morning dew, or the smile of a little child in your presence. When was the last time you had your breath taken away? And when you think of it, did that experience have anything to do with church? I may go out on a limb here, but for most people, I suspect not. Stunning, isn't it? At least it is to me. Stunning. Stunning that when we think about what takes our breath away, what shocks and amazes us and kind of lifts our spirits out of our bodies, I would suspect that for most people, the church in those mental images does not even make the top 10. Which is too bad. Because when you read the biblical narrative, the salvation story from Genesis to Revelation, from beginning to end, it is loaded with breathtaking, wow events. You know? You have Moses in the flaming bush. You have the waters parting of the Red Sea. You have Elijah calling down fire on the prophets of Baal. You have Jesus turning water into wine. And you have, of course, the culmination in a resurrection from the dead. And today, Luke gives us one more breathtaking event. Pentecost. Pentecost, where languages and backgrounds and ethnicities are all bridged as people come together in one place, and God gives them something so powerful, so energetic, that it appears to them there are flames of fire, not only burning within them, but burning through and above them, resting on the top of each worshiper's head. It was so amazing. I find this interesting. It was so amazing that those who were not directly involved said, oh, you know what? They got to be drunk. They got to be drunk. Now, we laugh at that, but there's something kind of sad about it, because these bystanders believe that. And when we think about it, it shouldn't shock us, because whenever we see people or events that people are enthusiastic or energetic, alcohol. Yeah. So that they say that probably shouldn't surprise us. It's as though we can't muster any spirit without the application of spirits. Kind of sad. But what is surprising here, or what maybe is disappointing as we read and we think about and recall and reflect upon this grand and great story, this birthday, this spark that burns into a fire that initiates this thing we call the church, what's disappointing is how we have come to disassociate, or at least not even to expect, power or enthusiasm or energy from our experience of the church. I mean, isn't that kind of true? I mean, it's almost, in some respects, like the church has sucked the life out of the church. It's almost as if we have taken the explosive nature of God, this fire that can consume as well as bring energy and creativity and all these things. It's almost as if it is so big, it is so frightening, it is so overwhelming that we don't want to even be in its presence. And so if we can't contain it or control it, we can't manage it or maintain it, then we're a little suspicious of it. You know, if we aren't familiar with it, then and so we often suck the very life out of the very life God would give us. A number of churches over the years that I have either been asked to do some consulting with and assist them in ministry and planning and programming, or even churches that I have interviewed with that were all about, man, you sit at the table across from them, they're going to tell you all about the energy and the joy and the enthusiasm and everything they did to squelch it. You know, I always laugh. Every church likes to say, every church you talk to says we're friendly. That's say, who are you as a church? Well, we're friendly. Well, that's because everybody who didn't think they were friendly left. True story. Likewise, congregations always desire to grow. We want to grow. That somehow means you're alive, you're vital, you're vibrant. We want to grow. We want to bring new people in, but we don't really like those new people because what do they bring with them? New ideas. Every new person brings one little change with them. It's just inherent. The church is not static. The church is dynamic. And most of the time what existing churches want is just simply people that will support what they're already doing, not enable them to do things differently or more. And then we wonder why so many churches these days are closing their doors and dying. I was reading a very interesting survey this past week. There's Gallup polls, there's Pew Research, and there's the Barna Institute, B-A-R-N-A. Go home and Google them. It's interesting. And they just had a survey came out of the millennial generation. Young people in their 20s, stretching into early 30s. And the survey was about young adults who were active in the church and now have nothing to do with it. They were active in their 20s and 30s and now have nothing to do with it. No need for it. It's really quite frightening because they're not talking about people who never had anything to do with the church. They're talking about young people who were very involved in the church. You see, where is that not only raises young children up, but keeps them, that newness that we desire? There's an old preacher story about a building, a church building that caught on fire, and as it burned, the minister stood helplessly watching it, and somebody came up and stood next to him and said, "Wow, I never thought I'd live to see that." And the minister goes, "What, you never thought you'd live to see the church burn down?" He said, No, I never thought I'd ever live to see that church on fire." It's kind of a goofy joke, but there's some truth to it. Because it speaks to the message of Pentecost, or the point of Pentecost. It makes us ask ourselves, where are our dreams? The text says, they shall dream dreams and they shall have visions. Where are our dreams? Where is our enthusiasm? What are we doing as a people of God, as one people in one place? What are we doing to capture the world's imagination, not just their attention, that we, with the message of Christ, take their breath away? Where is it that we are on fire? Do you know what one of the most powerful words in the English language is? Can you guess? Most powerful word? I'm going to give it to you because if you don't use it, I bet you use it, you just know how powerful it is, right? One of the most powerful words in the English language is but, with one T. It is. It's the most powerful word in the English language. Let's try it. But. Let's see if this works. Great idea. But. let's do it. I love it. But did you think about, you see, there is always somebody out there when you come up with something, when you think about something, when you feel the Spirit moving within you. There's always somebody out there in the world ready to throw water on your fire, and they do it real quickly with the word, but. Man, it comes out of our mouths. And the only way you counter-punch it, the only way you counter it is with one other word that's very powerful. And it's the word yes. But it's not yes to the idea. It's not yes to an event. It's not yes to a program or a process. It is yes to God. It is yes to the belief that there is something out there that can move and can motivate and can inspire and can lead us that we become a part of, even though we don't fully understand it. We don't even know where it's going. We are like the Israelites in the desert, wandering, trusting, saying yes to God because we know that God is taking us somewhere. And that God never leads you into the desert to die and be alone. Yes is the counterpunch to the world's but. And it enables the flames of Pentecost to burn on. You know, we're going through, with Victoria's departure here, the associate minister's departure here, we're going through a time of transition, which, you know, is one of those times when you don't always know what's going on. But it's also not merely a time of transition, it is a time of opportunity. As we once again evaluate and reevaluate who we are, what we're going to be, how we put into place those individuals, maybe not just an individual, but individuals who help us to not only continue what we're doing, but to do some other things we haven't been doing. Maybe even doing them better. We have to believe that and know that and trust that. Likewise, I have to share, I've been over the years of that nobody thought could start that are now burgeoning and growing mission endeavors that nobody thought could take. I mean, did you think a few years ago that we would have 4 or 5 mission trips a year that adults, youth, children, and would take place? I mean, would you think about that? And it isn't one individual, it isn't us, but God's Spirit makes things happen when we embrace it and empower it and believe in it. And you just sit back and you go, wow, it takes your breath away. If you really think about it, it takes your breath away. Well, there hasn't been a vision that's particularly been empowering me for a number of years, I must confess. But you know, the other day, and I want you to keep your butts in your head right now. But the other day, as I was thinking about that survey, the millennials and the young adults who are not in church, were in church, and so forth, and I'm downtown St. Pete, the average age is 38 or less. There are a lot of young people downtown St. Pete. I'm thinking, I wonder if a storefront satellite church would work down here. Now, you can say, but, or you can say, wow, we used to have a church downtown. A lot of those members, when that church closed, came here. I wonder if there's a need again. I wonder if God's Spirit calls us to reach those young adults there. I don't know. But when you start to think about it and you begin to say yes to those things, you know what it does? What it does for me, what it could do for you, it energizes you. Doesn't it just a little bit? Doesn't it make you feel like, wow, there's something new, there's something we could do, there's some possibility. And in that, the Spirit begins to churn. The Spirit begins to churn. We dream dreams and we have visions again. Yes. It causes a sense of urgency and energy to go through me, and maybe you have felt it as well. But what I can say, no matter where we go, what we're led towards in the days and weeks and years ahead, what I can say is that text reminds us that the Spirit of God is never meant to be contained. The Spirit of God did not come to those disciples so they could sit in that little church and smile at each other. They were given languages to go to the north, the east, the west, and the south. You know, churches spend a ton of time trying to write out mission statements. You know, we're going to write a mission statement. We're going to try it out a vision statement. Well, the Gospel of Matthew gives us one. Go into the world. It's as simple as that. And Pentecost affirms it. And that excites me. And I don't know about you, but sometimes when I think about going into the world, it takes my breath away. And whenever my breath is taken away, it makes room for God's breath to come in. And friends, that is what Pentecost is really about. Amen.